we're in a very collective area of healing, right? And as a group, we are a collective, and we have various levels of collective, our own collective nature. We have our microbiome, which is a big collective in the body, and that's at a very physical level. We have the state of the causal physiology. And for those who are new to energy healing and new to the terms that I use, the idea of the causal body is the deepest manifest level of self, the manifested self closest to the unmanifest source of creation. So we've got unmanifest source of creation, and then the beginnings of manifestation, right? And then more concrete, more concrete, more concrete, and eventually physical, very solid, you can see it, you can touch it, level of the physiology. So we've got that range there, and that very fine level, that causal level of the physiology, we also can think of as the finest level of feeling. We understand it as feeling, but it is not defined in space-time the way the body is defined in space-time. It's very unbounded, but it's still part of each one of us. It's still part of you. It is you. But it spreads out. It's outside the range of space and time. So it's as old as the universe and as big as the universe. And it contains all the other beings in creation with it. So that makes it like, that's a very collective level of self, right? Okay. So that's another level of our collective. There's another level of collective self, and that would be our ancestry. And our ancestry is kind of interesting because it ranges from the gross, superficial, solid, manifest level of being, because it actually resides at the level of the DNA. So that's physical, measurable, identifiable. But also the archive of the ancestors, although having kind of like a physical home in the body and the DNA, it also has a very abstract, its reality ranges all the way down to that causal level, that very fine level. Each one of us can identify the energetic structure of the ancestral body as the feeling of the family. It's the feeling of family. It's your family. It's your family. And each one of us has our immediate family, who we identify as separate from everybody else's immediate family. But if we go far enough back in time, our families start to overlap in a big way. For anybody of European descent, just a couple of centuries, and we have lots of common ancestors. And for those who are not of European descent, going back into all the other races of people on Earth, just a few more centuries, and we're all related. So that level of self has both a sort of highly defined reality, and then also a very abstract, much more broad-based reality. Okay, so these three collective levels of self. Why am I mentioning them? Because it occurred to me that it would be useful to do some healing for that part of our being, to create a foundation for the most powerful quality or level of healing that we can create through these live webinars. Because what I realize is that each of us brings our individuality to the live webinars, but we also bring our collectives to the webinars. We also bring our family. And the family comes in the form of all those foundational beliefs and thought patterns and structures and habits that have been passed down from generation to generation that form a foundation for the way we manifest ourselves, including like hair color and eye color and everything. So what occurs to me is that if I'm just putting my attention on the DNA, on the family structure for everyone. So your family's basically with you on the level of consciousness all the time, and promote a level of orderliness in that structure, harmony and orderliness in that structure, then each one of us as healers becomes a more powerful healer. Because when we do our work in these webinars and even on our own, we're doing it with the support of the family. So, hi. Earth is a living entity. I have the feeling Earth is excited about what we are doing, yes, and eager to hear what she has to say as we proceed today. Thank you for that coming in the chat window from one of the great healers who's in on this session. Earth is the mother of all the families, isn't she? I love giving you the inside details of what's going on deep inside me when the healing is going on. So this is what's happening. I shift my attention to the awareness of family in each person who's in this live webinar. And that means gross senses of perception going down into the molecular level. That means pure perception or awareness going down into the home, the universal home of the archive of the ancestors, each person's archive. And then dropping my awareness into the field of unmanifest being. And the first thing I'm feeling is a feeling of great honor, because reverence and honor, because those individuals who had the resources and the good fortune, who had the capacity to produce offspring and to create this world of humans as we are now, those individuals have an honorable place in the history of humanity. They're the ones who reproduced. That's a big deal. So that's the first thing. The second thing is looks like the creation of a sacred space in the causal level of the field of self, which I would say it's like a sacred garden of the heart for the whole family. So we're looking into the sacred gardens of the heart for the family. And in each of those places, there's a quality is a restructuring of the shape and form of that sacred space in order to align with Dharma. So we're looking at any walls or any barriers or any boundaries that might be in that sacred space of the family that are not allowing consciousness to flow forward in an evolutionary progressive manner. So we're looking at those directly, and I can see them. And as I'm looking at them, what's happening is there's a quality of light which emanates or radiates from the center of those sacred spaces, the center of the ancestral archive. We can call it the ancestral archive, or we can call it the sacred garden of the heart for your family. Either term means basically the same thing, but from the center of that space is establishing. I love that word, establishing. It's establishing a connection with tradition, honorable tradition and a reverence for not just human tradition, but cosmic tradition, cosmic family traditions. Tradition in a, you could say, like a original template for what that means, for the meaning of this concept of the honor of a family, nobility and trust, honesty. It's beautiful. And that light also has a feminine softness in it, which is creating a gentleness. It feels like it's softening down a lot of the family beliefs that were kind of like cliquish or clan-ish over the centuries, like, oh yeah, our family's good, but that other family over there, forget them, you know, because you go back far enough, it's just all the same family anyway, right? So there's a kind of a softness here that is recognizing the more universal form of what family tradition and family honor means across all the family lines, across all of them, so that there's a sort of held in common. There's this kind of commonly, I would say then, a commonly held thread of understanding of what that means, and that it is a universal form. So recognized as a universal form. So recognition, awakening of recognition, that means awakening taking place in the DNA, taking place in the sacred center, the sacred garden of the family archive. And as that awakening occurs, what happens is the members of the family, going back many, 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 many generations, are waking up to their own potential to work together with us in the energy healing field. So we're conjoined, we start to work together, orderly, in an orderly fashion. There is such beautiful intelligence awakening, such beautiful discrimination awakening within the family structure. I want to give this a description because it's my job. That's why I'm on camera and you're not, is because I'm describing it. But I'm telling you something. This intelligence, it's so beautiful. It's like I'm trying to give it words. It's outside the range of my basic language capabilities, but that doesn't matter, because this is all about me stretching a little bit too, right? It's the joy of doing this with you, is the little stretch that I get to. It's an intelligence that is an integrated marriage of the three basic energy centers of the body. So head, heart, and gut, those three areas. Those are three important, like distinctly different ways. These three areas have three distinctly different ways of perceiving and understanding reality. So this particular quality of intelligence is balancing and organizing the coordinated effort between these three areas. This is happening for everybody in our healing circle, but it's also happening for the families. It's also happening for the ancestors. Some of them are understanding it through music. Some of them are let's see, they're processing the experience of the integration of this intelligence as they listen to music. Because a lot of times music has these three areas. It's got like a bass line, which establishes a fundamental for all the chords. And then there's the melody, which tends to ride on top. And then there's like a sort of a harmony section in the middle. So there are these three parts. And I'm finding that it's interesting that music is a universal, right? It goes back as far and as long. I mean, the birds make music, that even before we had fingers, we were making music. So the whales make music, all the beings, all the universe, all the planets make music. And I think that's important. It actually, I feel as if this ties in a little bit with the point that just came up about Mother Earth getting excited about the sort of healing structure that we're building right now in our healing webinar in order to affect some kind of support for her efforts as well. Because as we know, the planets are also quite musical. As they spin on their axes, they produce different pitches, different tones, and as they move around the sun, their movement around the sun creates different pitches and tones, and all those pitches and tones have relationships with each other, and it's the relationships that are responsible for the way the relative level of creation manifests. The tones, as they exist at that very, very subtle level of creation, that causal level, it's very abstract. But then if there's a tone here and then there's another tone here, they produce waves that create a relationship, and it's the relationship that creates the scaffolding, that creates like threads, the threads that we think of as the features of the astral level of creation. And those are what give rise to the foundation for like thoughts and beliefs and desires and intentions, and all the thoughts, beliefs, desires, and intentions then form the scaffolding for our behaviors and what we do in our life and what we create and so forth. Even things like the way the body changes and stuff, everything, you know, I can say, well, this hair was when I had to to get up in the middle of my meal and take somebody somewhere. This is when the phone rang when I was eating lunch, and this gray hair over here. Now, anyway, you know, each little thing that we create ourselves, you know. All right. So that's the healing for the families. And what this does is it brings the best qualities of every family member into a coordinated wholeness with your own being, so that whatever your intentions, desires, thoughts, habits, feelings, whatever you're creating or promoting, it has behind it sort of like the backing of the family. Because we know all of us have different situations and circumstances with our families, and some people's family members are supportive of what they're doing, some people's family members are not. And what we need to do for this healing is to be able to bring everybody together in a place of safety and comfort and wholeness, so that everybody can still support the overall effect. Even if you have a family member who has problems or who is dysfunctional or whatever, it doesn't matter, because even a dysfunctional person can still help promote an evolutionary effect. It's just a little shift. It's a little shift. It's a little shift. And I'm just feeling that as it's being understood by the physiology in the form of a light, or as in the form of the relationship between the causal structures that produce it. It's a very high energy frequency, and it's responsible for holding your family in an embrace of security and evolutionary alignment, so that regardless of people's functionality, regardless of people's nature, regardless of details and habits or anything, that everybody stays in that soft space that allows them to move forward on their evolutionary track. I do this with my family. I've been doing this with my family for years and years, and it's such an incredible pleasure for me to share it with your families, our big earth family.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here